Hello and welcome back to another tutorial here for AP classes. So today what we're going to go over is how to write a really good argument. And what I want to talk about is like a very basic structure of a thesis matched up with a singular body paragraph. Once you've got that down, it's going to be a lot easier then to expand and do much bigger work when it comes to essays in AP classes. So let's get going and let's talk about how to write a really good argumentative essay. So in this tutorial, I want to explain to you how you can set up your thesis statement with the supporting body paragraphs that you're going to need. So let's start off again with the thesis statement, which I know we've talked about before. When you make a thesis statement, you're starting off with a main claim or main argument. Now, what are the elements that go into this? Well, number one, you've got to make a specific claim that answers the prompt that's being asked. The second part, though, is that you need historical reasoning. You need a because statement. What's the reason why you are making the claim? And then last off is the impact. Why is this argument important? This is the analysis part where you connect back to the prompt and you state why your claim, why your reasoning is significant. One side note, remember, this doesn't mean you need to have 3 sentences for your thesis. You can have that, but it's not necessary. What I'm talking about here is you have to have all 3 elements in your thesis. So the next part are your body paragraphs. What should they generally look like when you're in support of your thesis? I would suggest the following structure. First off, it's really important you start off with a topic sentence at the beginning of body paragraphs. A lot of students like to just jump into the evidence. Why shouldn't you do that? Well, because you need an organizing argument that tells me, your reader and creator, what's the overall idea of the evidence and how does the evidence group together. So once you've created that topic sentence, or sort of like a mini thesis statement that connects back to the thesis, now you have something that organizes what you're going to do next, and that's the structure after the topic sentence. So what should you do? Well, it's a kind of a repetition here. What you're going to do is you're going to provide a concrete example, which you then explain, and then you give analysis that supports your argument. Second time around, concrete example, explain, analysis that supports your argument, and then you do that same thing a third time. Think of this as rule of 3. In other words, you want to try and give 3 concrete examples, explain them, but then make sure that those examples support the overall argument that you're making. Okay, so now let's take a look at some examples to make sense out of this. Let's say you're given this prompt. Analyze how empires created unity in response to the effects of trade in Southeast Asia between 1200 to 1450 CE. What would a good thesis look like? Well, I've color-coded it for you here. The red part is the claim, the green part is the support or the historical reasoning, and the blue part is the impact. So let's go over it. The Chinese empires Sui, Tang, and Song all responded to the effects of trade by mixing their own traditions with new external beliefs. There's your claim. It pretty much is a repetition of the prompt. There's a little bit of extra stuff that's put in there. Notice what we put right after that, though, in the green. Because they could use the beliefs of divine rewards to create greater family unity. Notice there's my reason for why they mixed things together in trade. They were able to do that by providing new ideas of divine rewards to uphold the Chinese belief in family. And then last off is our impact. The Chinese dynasties did all this to make sure that the new merchant classes remain loyal to their ancestors and their filial family obligations. So notice what we got here. It's just 2 sentences, but we've got all 3 elements: claim, historical reasoning, and impact. Okay, so now let's look at a really good example of a body paragraph. So I've color-coded each section for you so that you can see each block. The first one is our topic sentence. Chinese dynasties between 1200 to 1450 CE all faced the conflict of a growing merchant class that was more self-interested than loyal to family obligations. Notice in this topic sentence we have a clear argument. The argument is giving us categories: merchant class, self-interest, and loyalty versus family obligations. Okay, next up is where we get into the concrete details. So this section in red has all of the aspects that we need. The Chinese dynasties of the Sui and Tang both expanded into Manchuria, Tibet, and Korea. Okay, there's our concrete detail. This led to larger trade routes and an emphasis on economic profits. So there's our explanation and analysis that connects us back to the topic sentence about how we are developing an idea of economic trade. Next up, the Sui built the Grand Canal to connect northern and southern China. There's a concrete detail. This led to more port cities and an emphasis on economic trade over that of family loyalty. There's our analysis, again connecting back to the topic sentence about favoring trade over that of family. Okay, last concrete detail. A new merchant class arose who lived in the port cities and sought more profits. There's our concrete detail. This merchant class was less interested in deferring to Chinese authorities. There's our analysis, connecting back to the argument. Now we have a transition sentence. So the question arose about how to resolve the conflict between growing Chinese wealth and the Confucian emphasis on filial obligations. Okay, so what are our big takeaways from this particular video tutorial? First, remember that when you're creating a thesis or a main claim, you have three elements to it. Claim, historical reasoning, it gives us a reason why we're making the claim, and then the impact, what's the significance? When you get into your body paragraphs, make sure that you have a topic sentence followed by the rule of three. Rule of three basically means you're going to have the repetition of three blocks of arguments. The blocks are this: concrete detail, explanation, and then analysis of that concrete detail to back up your argument. You're going to do that block 3 times in your body paragraph. And that's basically all you have to do in order to support a main argument. Okay, see you in class.